Hello, everyone. President Trump's declaration of Jerusalem as Israel's capital was just one element in a very busy day in U.S. politics. Donald Trump Jr. spent hours before the House Intelligence Committee refusing to answer questions about what he and his father discussed after a June 2016 meeting at Trump Tower. Trump Jr. cited attorney-client privilege. A whistleblower claims that during Mr. Trump's inauguration, incoming National Security Advisor Michael Flynn texted a business associate saying a plan to partner with Russia to build nuclear reactors in the Middle East was good to go, and sanctions in Moscow would be ripped up. And also, as I say, it was a busy day. Democratic Senator Al Franken will make an announcement Thursday amid growing calls from fellow senators for him to step down. A number of women have accused Franken of sexual harassment. Joining me here in LA, a political commentator and radio host Mo Kelly and Republican strategist Chris Faulkner. Welcome to you both. Thank you for being with us. Thank you. Gentlemen, when Mr. Trump made this announcement on Wednesday, amongst the things he said to justify it was that this was a good move for U.S. interests, and that it was also good for the peace process. I guess the question is, Chris, how does this advance U.S. interests?
Well, at some point, we have to stop being ambiguous, really, about who our allies and who our friends are. The United States already is spending close to $400 million a year funding the Palestinian Authority, trying to help the Palestinians establish better lives for themselves. And I think that our reticence and our ambiguity in the past over our status with Israel has quite frankly led to some misgivings about the peace process. So hopefully with President Trump's strong statement, what we're really going to see is people understanding now really where we stand as a nation in our foreign policy and who our friends are and who they are.
Okay, Mo, before you weigh in, sure. You know, President Trump has said that, you know, he believes this will make the peace process, you know, a better process, if you will, that it will actually kickstart it, so to speak. But then by this evening, we're hearing from White House officials saying it's been derailed. One senior official saying to CNN, temporarily, I hope. Okay, that's the White House position, temporarily they hope, but I want you to take a listen to Hanan Ashrawi. She is a PLO Executive Committee member, the Palestine Liberation Organization Committee member. Take a listen to what she said this means for the peace process.
It means the death knell of any peace process and the destruction of the chances of peace in the region. It is in one blow. President Trump has destroyed not only the chances of peace, but the stability and security of the region as a whole.
Hanan Ashrawi saying it's destroyed the prospect for peace and potentially putting regional security at jeopardy, at risk. Mo, many saying this is all about fulfilling a campaign promise. I guess the question is that worth derailing the peace process? Even the White House has said it has been derailed, if only temporarily.
No, Chris was spot on. This is about identifying who are allies and who are enemies. And this president, I think, has been consistent in making it clear that the people of the Middle East are not our allies, or at least how he presents himself in our foreign policy. The timing of this was dubious if you think you want to move forward with any type of Middle East peace. But when you look at it, not in a vacuum, but in the totality, when you have the travel ban decision come down this week, it sends the message that the people of the Middle East are not our friends, and he's not trying to be friends with him. So yes, then the Middle East is going to respond in kind with their protests and the feeling that this is not about peace.
There's so much to discuss on the Jerusalem front, but we have to shift gears and go to the other branch of government, which would be Congress, because I want to get in the fact that a seventh woman has come out and accused Al Franken of sexual misconduct, and it would appear that 7 was the one too many, because by the end of Wednesday we had some 32 senators come out and say Franken has to go. It was all kicked off by New York Senator Kirsten Gillibrand. Take a listen to what she had to say.
Obviously, there were new allegations today, and enough is enough. We need to draw a line in the sand and say none of it is okay, none of it is acceptable, and we, as elected leaders, should absolutely be held to a higher standard, not a lower standard. I do not feel that he should continue to serve.
Chris, what do you make of the way the Democrats have handled all of this, and now everyone's found a voice?
You know, it would be easy as a Republican who literally has campaigned in Minnesota against Senator Franken. It would be very easy for me to jump on this bandwagon and say, run this guy out. You know, let's kick him out right now. But it is a dangerous precedent. As much as all of us, I think nobody would disagree, the better accountability for people's actions and behaviors, especially in terms of women in the workplace, this is all good progress. We run a very dangerous risk of going to a system where there is no due process for those accused. And I think that's really dangerous for us to go to. 7 women, 8 women, you made the point, and it's good. Is what 6 wasn't enough? And it's a slippery slope. I'd like to see Senator Franken and, quite frankly, anyone accused of any wrongdoing get their due process. I don't think he should resign unless he is ready to admit culpability and guilt.
Mo, where do you stand on this issue? And also the fact that some people are saying there's a double standard at play when it comes to how Democrats responded to Senator Franken versus John Conyers, who stepped down on Tuesday. What's your thought on that?
I wouldn't say the D is for double standard. I would say the D is for dumb Democrat. I don't understand why in the world the Democrats would hold themselves to a different standard than they hold their own Republican counterparts. What is the bar here? Is the bar accusation, number of accusations? If you're going to call for the ouster or the resignation of Al Franken, then you must, if principle is the guide, call for the ouster or resignation of the president. If it has to do with whether someone has admitted fault, well, John Conyers has not admitted fault. There needs to be some semblance of consistency in our national discussions, and the Democrats don't have it.
Chris?
He's right. There is no consistency there. It's
and
really
especially
unfortunate.
about the president, what does it mean?
What does it mean in terms of the president? My first statement is still the true statement. Everyone deserves due process. Everyone deserves the benefit of the doubt until they've been proven guilty. As with Senator Franken, whether it's John Conyers or any of these things, you know, Congressman Conyers was also looking at a Playboy on a flight in 2010, while sitting in coach, flying from D.C. to Detroit. So I'm not really sure his behavior has always been the most ethical or the most certainly representative of his district.
Playboys are unethical?
No, in terms of his behavior and maybe his attitude towards women.
Okay.
What he wants to do in his private time is certainly his business. But I guess what I'm saying is, as a representative of his district, he's absolutely set the wrong tone, even before any of these accusations. And let's remember, too, he also used taxpayer dollars to pay people that were actually accusing him, and he did file the settlement.
Do you see the difference, Mo?
Only if we're going to exclude Farenthold from this conversation, Congressman Farenthold of Texas, who used taxpayer money to pay for a settlement. We're still lacking, and I'm not blaming you, I'm just saying in our larger discussion, we're lacking that consistency as far as how we are going to approach these individuals and how and where we define fault.
Very quickly, I've got to get into the fact that Donald Trump Jr. was on Capitol Hill, as you all know, speaking to House investigators. The main focus that July 2016 meeting at Trump Tower, where Don Jr. and we know Kushner was there, and that Russian lawyer. Essentially, there was a question asked of him, basically, what did you discuss with your father? He says that basically his father wasn't kept abreast of the meeting at the time. He spoke to him afterwards, but he says that is covered by attorney-client privilege. Chris, we've had a number of legal minds on CNN on a Wednesday saying, no, that's not how this works, attorney-client privilege. What do you make of the way Don Jr. handled all of this today? Because one would think this is not the end of the matter.
Well, I'm not an attorney, and I would agree with you, it's not the end of the matter. I think that there has been a clear precedent from Mueller and his team that they're out to get a skin. They're out to get somebody. They're out, and they're going to find somebody, and they're going to make an example of somebody, whether it's Donald Trump Jr. or someone else with the campaign. There's been a lot of things that the DOJ has been very inconsistent about in terms of this investigation, and it's unfortunate because these accusations are extremely serious. We should take them seriously. But again, as with the sexual misconduct, people are going to be basically assumed guilty without any kind of due process, and it's just very unfortunate.
Mo, what do you say to that? Some would say the lack of transparency adds to this image of a White House trying to hide something.
Donald Trump Jr. is going to get all the due process he wants coming forward because he's begging for a subpoena from Robert Mueller. The fact that he would not answer that question in front of Congress, their congressional investigation, only means that Robert Mueller will find a way to have him answer it to him himself.
Mo Kelly, Chris Faulkner, a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.